Sechas Nazir Daf Mem Dalid begins with a Mishnah comparing the three halachos of Nazirus and why some particulars of each halacha does not apply to the other ones. And then the Gemara will have a series of questions why we don't learn one from the other in all the halachos of Nazirus. Then we'll get to another Mishnah, which will discuss when the karbanos of Nazirus, at the completion of the Nazirus process, when are they brought. So let's begin with the first Mishnah, discussing the three halachos of Nazirus: that a Nazir cannot become Tamei Mace, a Nazir cannot take a haircut, and a Nazir cannot drink or eat anything that comes from the grapevine. And now the Mishnah compares them. So the Mishnah says there is something about Tumah and haircut which is stricter than that of wine, because Tumah and haircut, if they are violated, they knock out the Nazirus that was done so far, and you have to start over again. However, if you drink some wine, then he can continue with his Nazirus afterwards. You don't have to start the Nazirus over again. On the other hand, there is a way in which the halacha of wine is stricter than Tumah and haircut, because something which comes from wine has no heter. There's never a situation in which a Nazir is allowed to drink wine. However, there is a situation in which he could be mitame, in which he could take a haircut. He could take a haircut if he's a mitzayra, and he has to take a haircut as part of his mitzvah of taras mitzayra, and he can be mitame for a mace mitzvah. Now, within Tumah and haircut, there's also a leniency, and that is that Tumah knocks out all the days of Nazirus up till then, even if it was 100 days, no matter how many it was, and you have to bring a carbon. However, a haircut can only knock out 30 days, because the only reason you have to do anything over again is because you need a head of hair to shave. You need a 30 days growth, so therefore you have to do 30 days over again. You don't have to do more than that. But for taking a haircut, you don't have to bring a carbon at all. Alright, now begins the Gemara. The Gemara is going to compare all the different halachos and why you can't learn one from the other with a kal v'chomer based on the chumras that each one has. So, says the Gemara, first of all, why shouldn't you learn that Tumah has no heter for mace mitzvah from wine, kal v'chomer? Wine doesn't knock out any of the days, but Tumah knocks out some of the days. So Tumah is obviously stricter than wine. So if wine doesn't have any heter for a situation of mitzvah, Tumah should also not have a heter for a situation of mitzvah. So you want to answer this because there's a kassav says it's only for one's father and mother that he cannot become tamei, but for others he can become tamei, and that is for a mace mitzvah. Now that pasuk says by a Kohen, but Nazir and Kohen have the same halachos. Next, the Gemara asks, the wine should be permitted to be drunk for a mitzvah, kal v'chomer, from Tumah. Tumah knocks out all the Nazirus that took place up to that point. Wine does not knock out any of Nazirus up to that point. So you see, wine is more lenient than a Tumah. So if Tumah, there is a heter for a mitzvah, as we learned out of the pasuk of le'imo, so wine should also have a heter for mitzvah. So my answer is that's how we have exer. So it says miyayin v'sheicher yazir, extra thing that says yayin and old wine, however we translate sheicher, you should have nazirus. That is to add an isser, that the isser of wine applies even for a situation of a mitzvah. Alright, next thing Gemara asks, let's learn that wine should knock out all the days of Nazirus that happened up to that point, kal v'chomer, from Tumah. Tumah knocks everything out, and the Tumah has a heter. Tumah has a heter for a mace mitzvah. Wine does not. So you see, Tumah is more lenient than wine, and therefore we should also say that wine should knock out part of the Nazirus that happened up until that point. If Tumah knocks it out and wine is stricter, so Tumah should knock it out as well. So in that, the Torah says, it's only because of Tumah that it knocks out the first days, but wine does not knock out the first days. Next, the Gemara asks, haircut should knock out the first days, and should knock out all the days, not just 30 days, kal v'chomer, from Tumah. Tumah, you don't say that the one who's mitame and the one who makes them tamei, meaning the one who becomes tamei and the one who makes them tamei have the same halacha, and it knocks out everything. But by a haircut, you do say that the issur applies to both the one who gets the haircut and the one who makes the haircut, the one who performs the haircut. So therefore, since it's stricter, it should knock everything out also. So on that, the Torah says no, because it says V'yamim Rishonim Yiplu Ki Tamei Nizroi. Only because of Tumah are the first days knocked out, not for other reasons, not because of haircut. Okay, next the Gemara says, so then you should say that the Tumah, you make the Isser applies to the one who becomes Tameh and the one who's Metamehim. Kavachomer from haircut. Haircut doesn't knock out more than 30 days, and still it has the halacha that the Isser applies to both the one who gets the haircut and the one who receives the haircut. So Tumah, which is able to knock out everything that happened up till that point, certainly the Isser should apply to both the one who becomes Tameh and the one who's Metamehim. So that the Torah says, V'timei Rosh Nizro. It's only the one who's metamehim that has the Isser and not everyone else. So the Gemara now asks, but for the haircut, you should say that the one who gets the haircut and the one who receives the haircut should not have the same Isser. Kavachomer from Tumah. Tumah knocks out all the days, but we don't say that applies equally to the one who makes the Tumah and the one who receives the Tumah. So haircut, which does not knock out all the days, only knocks out 30 days, should not apply to the one who's metameh and the one who performs the haircut as well as the one who receives the haircut. So that the Torah says tar lo yavar arosho, and we say that it's lo yavar, not he shouldn't do it, and so he should not do it himself, he should not do it to someone else, shouldn't have someone else do it to him. All situations in which shaving occurs, there's a problem and there's a Isser. Okay? Next, the Gemara says, why don't you say that haircut should not have any heter, even for a mitzvah, kavachomer from wine. Wine does knock out any days, and it has no heter. Haircut, which knocks out some of the days, should certainly not have any heter, even for a situation of a mitzvah. So the Gemara answers, no, because the Torah says about it says Rosho on the discussion of the haircut of a mitzvah. It says Rosho and Zikno, extra words to teach me that you do shave his head, you do shave his beard, and some Machlokes Tanaim, which one we learned from, as we've seen earlier. But one of them, at least, is extra and teaches me that even in the case of a Nazir, where you have an Isser, you do it anyway, you do the haircut anyway. Okay, so next thing Gemara asks, the haircut should not knock out anything at all, kavachomer from wine. Wine has no heter, and it doesn't knock anything out. So haircut, which has a heter in a situation of a mitzvah, certainly should not knock anything out, since it's weaker, it's more lenient. So the Gemara says, well, that you can't say that because you have to have hair. Part of the mitzvah of the concluding procedures of a nazir is the hair has to be there. So the Gemara says, so then wine should knock out 30 days. If he drinks wine, he should lose 30 days, kavachomer from the haircut. Haircut has a heter in a situation of a mitzvah, and it knocks 30 days out. So wine, which has no heter, is stricter, should certainly be able to knock out at least 30 days. So Gemara says, no, that doesn't make sense. The only reason why hair knocks out 30 days is because you have to have hair to cut. Wine, you don't have to have hair to cut. In wine, there's no problem, and therefore it's not going to knock anything out. Alright, now we move on to the next Mishnah. And this Mishnah discusses the procedure for the concluding haircut and karbanos at the end of Nazirus. So the Mishnah discusses, it specifically refers to Tiglachas Tumah, somebody who became Tameh, how he purifies himself. Not that he completed the Nazirus successfully, but Nazirus that ends because of Tumah that occurred. So the Mishnah says, what do you do if somebody became Tameh? So he sprinkles paraduma water on him on day 3 and on day 7 as every tahara. Then he takes a haircut on day 7, and then he has to bring his karbanos on day 8. Now what if he didn't do his haircut on day 7? What if he delayed his haircut until day 8? So now you have a machlekes. Rabbi Kiva says he could bring his karbanos on the same day, even though he didn't get his haircut yet. And Rabbi Tarfon said, how could that be? In a mitzvah you can't do that. In a mitzvah it says that his tahara is dependent on the days that happen, and the mitzvah can't take a haircut until the mitzvah also has to take a haircut and also has to bring karbanos. The mitzvah can't can't bring his karbanos until the day after he takes his haircut. So how could Rabbi Akiva say that the Nazir could bring his karbanos on the same day he has his haircut if it's day 8? So Mara says, Rabbi Akiva answered, there's a very big difference between Nazir and Mitzayr. Nazir's tahara has nothing to do with his haircut. He has to wait till after his tahara in order to take his haircut and bring his karbanos, but they both have to be afterwards. So if he didn't do his haircut until day 8, still his tahara ended on day 7, his tumah ended on day 7, he's b'tahara now, and he could bring his karbanos on today, this day. However, on a mitzayra, the haircut is part of the tahara process. So if he didn't do his haircut until day 8, he does not enter tahara until day 8, and he has to wait until the sun goes down, and then he's b'tahara, can only bring his karbanos the next day, the day that follows. Alright, now the Gemara asks, what was Rabbi Tarfon's response? We finished the Mishnah, we'll begin the Gemara. Rabbi Akiva responded to Rabbi Tarfon. Did Rabbi Tarfon accept that from him, or did Rabbi Tarfon not accept that from him? So Gemara quotes a Brisa to show that Rabbi Tarfon still argues. So the Brisa quotes Hillel, says that if he took a haircut on day 8, he should only bring his karbanos on day 9. Now, the Rabbanan don't hold that way, and if Rabbi Tarfon agreed with the Rabbanan, he wouldn't hold that way either. So obviously you have to say that Rabbi Tarfon still holds that he could only bring his karbanos on day 9. The Gemara responds, Rava says it's not a proof. It could be that Bryce is talking about where he didn't do his tefillah on day number 7. He postponed his tefillah till day number 8. So he doesn't conclude his tumah until the sun goes down on day number 8, and that's why he can't bring his karbanos until day number 9. And now the Gemara goes to another sugya, which is going to wrap back around to discuss Nazir Tameh and when he brings his karbanos, when he concludes. So Abaye quotes a brisa that was said over, some people's comments on it, and how he disagrees. And we're not going to conclude Abaye's comments on this stuff. It goes deep into the next stuff. So Gemara says that Abaye is quoting the Chaverim of Rav Nosson Bar Hoshea. We're sitting and saying over a brisa about a zav. The brisa says that the zav, the Torah says, the zav, when he finishes if he has 3 consecutive days of ziva, he has to bring the karbanos, and he brings them to the kohen. He comes up to the Pesach El Moed. The Gemara calls it Shar Nikanor. Shar Nikanor counts as what we call Machane Levia. It's not Machane Shechina. Machane Shechina is the Azara. Shar Nikanor is the gate of the Azara, but it's not Machane Shechina. So he can go to Shar Nikanor, he can't go any further, and there he gives them to the kohen, and he brings those karbanos. So says the Brisa, so when does he come? It's only if he did Tevila and Harav Shemesh, that he went to the mikvah at the end of his period of being a zav, and the sun set. Then he's allowed to go up there. However, if not, he's not allowed to. So if he failed to do his tefillah and have Harav Shemesh, that would mean that he's what's called a Tvul Yom. If he went to the mikvah but he didn't have the sunset yet, he wouldn't be allowed to go there. So said Rav Hoshea and his Chaverim, you see that this brisa holds that a zav who's a Tvul Yom is the same as a zav who didn't go to the mikvah at all. He's not allowed to go to Shar Nikanor to go bring those karbanos to the kohen. So Abaye said it can't be the pshat, because if that's true, if you learn that all of the fact that it says in the pasuk that he has to come on the 8th day, then on a Nazir you should say the same thing, because the Nazir it also says he can only come to the Pesach of the oil mine on the 8th day. And that's also only after he did his tefillah and his Harav Shemesh, after he went to the mikvah on day 7 and the sunset. The problem is that the Nazir, the only reason he can't enter is because of Tumas Meis. And Tumas Meis is allowed to go into the Azara. Is allowed to go into Machane Levia. Is allowed to go into Shar Nikanor, which counts as Shar Machane Levia. And you see that because there's a brisa that says even a Meis himself is allowed to be brought into Machane Levia. Moshe Rabbeinu was carrying Atzmas Yosef, and he carried them B'mechitzasei. It says V'yikach Moshe's Atzmas Yosef Imoi, took them with him, Imoi b'mechitzasei, and Machane Levia with him, which is also like Shar Nikanor. And therefore, if a mace can go there, a tummy mace could for sure go there, and therefore a Nazir whose tummy mace, there's no reason he can't go there. So why would the pasuk say he has to wait till day 8? Obviously, then the reason has nothing to do with the fact that a Tful Yom is the same status as someone who didn't even have Tevilah. What then is the pshat? So Abaye explains, until he brings his karbanos, he's the status of Mechusar Kapara. Mechusar Kapara means he hasn't brought his karbanos yet. There is still a vestige of Tumah on him, and that enough, specifically for a zav, that enough keeps him out of Machane Levia.